This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, 1 second. All right. Is anybody having, if anybody on the go-to meeting having difficulties? On the WhatsApp, I should say, not go-to meeting. Only one person, but not the usual. Okay, just 1 second. Let me get my phone. I was going to pause this.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so let us get started, my friends. Okay, and away we go. All right, class, come to order. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this part is page 285, is talking about the way we honor Shabbos. Besides the halachot, besides the laws and the prohibitions and the kiddushes, right, which is the do's and the don'ts of Shabbos, there's also meant to be a Shabbos atmosphere that is created. And this is based on a pasuk in Yeshayahu, where even the way we do things on Shabbos is meant to be done differently. Our sages added a number of prohibitions to the Shabbos laws. Their purpose was to prevent a person from inadvertently transgressing the Torah prohibition of Shabbos, right? That's the classic fence, right? Protective fence that is put around the actual Aveira, the actual sin, the kryptonite, and you stay away. To prevent one becoming drawn into weekday affairs, which would impair the spiritual and physical tranquility necessary to experience the sanctity of Shabbos, to show respect for the holiness of Shabbos. Okay? In other words, we need to make Shabbos. Shabbos, we're taught, is me'ein olam haba. It's a taste of the world to come. The sages say it's 1/60th. I think we discussed this. Where else do we have the idea of 1/60th? Okay, sleeping is 1/60th of death. But in halacha, where do we have 1/60th? Good, right? Can you say it again? In terms of bishul, good. In terms of cooking that we do, right? If a little drop of milk went into our pot of chicken soup, so is the chicken soup now treif? Is it no longer kosher? It depends, right? If you've got 60 to 1, we're good to go. 60 chicken to 1 drop, we're good to go. Not to say that, oh, I could add in a little bit less than 1/60th of milk into my chicken soup. It's supposed to make things creamier. I wouldn't know, right? No, we can't go ahead and do that. If it did happen, then we're okay. But 1/60th is that transitional point where it's almost tasteable if you concentrate on it. So that is that tipping point, we'll call it. Once you've got the 60 to 1, you're good to go. So we say that Shabbos is 1/60th of Olam Haba. It's that tipping point, meaning you might taste it, you might not. Right? If Shabbos for you is this restriction and that restriction, then it might be more than 1/60th of hell, than more than 1/60th of heaven. Right? But if a person embraces the Shabbos and creates that beautiful atmosphere of Shabbos, then we can taste that it's 1/60th of heaven. And therefore, right, that is why, and the idea of heaven is all the concerns of this world, we've risen above them. They're no longer issues for us. And Shabbos is an opportunity to get out of all the beeps and tweets and buzzes and huzzes that goes on and say, oh, let me live for the moment. Let me enjoy my family. Let me enjoy my children. Let me enjoy my friends. Let me enjoy my community. Let me enjoy my God. Let me enjoy this incredible world that He has made. That's what Shabbos is. So we need to show respect. We need to prevent from being drawn into the weekday affairs. The prophet Yisroel said, if you restrain your foot because of Shabbos, and you do not pursue your affairs, my holy day, if you call Shabbos oneg, a delight, his holy day, michubad, honor, and you honor it by not going on your way, pursuing your business, or speaking common talk, then you shall delight in God, and I shall make you ride over the heights of the earth. Right? That is Yeshayahu. How many chapters in Yeshayahu? 60. This is 58. This is reaching to the very end there. Our sages derive from these verses 3 specific areas of activity to be avoided on Shabbos. 1, going on one's way, pursuing one's affair, speaking common talk. They fall under the category of uvdin dechol, and that is a term that's often used in halacha. Uvdin, affairs, de, Aramaic for of, chol, of weekday, which are prohibited on Shabbos. So let's go through this right now. 286, running on Shabbos. Going on one's way requires one stride on Shabbos, different from the stride during the week. One should not run or walk as if he were in a hurry. It is the nature of things that people hurry to tend to their affairs. But it's written about Shabbos, honor it by not going on your way. We honor it by refraining from rushing around. Youngsters who enjoy romping and jumping are permitted to do so. Running to tend one's affairs is prohibited. If done for the sake of a mitzvah, such as prayer or Torah study, it is permitted. Now you might ask, Rabbi Ciner, we've seen the way you walk. Okay, and that is a stride. Okay, so walking to shul is certainly not an issue. I'm walking to do a mitzvah. When I'm walking home, if you notice Shabbos afternoon, I'm walking home, I walk at a leisurely pace with Natalie. Friday nights, when I've got my wife waiting for me to get home, and sometimes I have my daughter and son-in-law and their little ones, and it's getting late. So in my mind, that's also walking to do a mitzvah, to not keep them waiting, and therefore I do a Ciner stride. Yes. Okay. Pursuing one's business, 287. Including pursuing one's business are the prohibitions to buy and sell on Shabbos. We don't engage in business on Shabbos, whether it involves buying or selling, renting or leasing, hiring workers, even if no wages are mentioned. Yes. Yeah, he will get there. He will get there. Now let me see if we can talk about this. I think he'll get there. If he doesn't get there, then we'll get there. Yeah, he should get there. Okay. Now, so let's say you are a caterer and you're hired to do a kiddush. Or let's say you are a Torah reader, a Baal Koreh, and you are hired, hello Elizabeth, you are hired to read the Torah on Shabbos. Let's say you are a rabbi. And part of your job description is speaking, giving a drasha on Shabbos. So aren't I working on Shabbos? So let's say you are a very, very hardworking member of the staff, and on Shabbos you have to move some tables around. Not only you, even your husband might roll up his sleeves every single time and get involved and help. So is that an issue? So that is not an issue based on the concept of havla'ah. And that is, I'm not getting paid directly for Shabbos. I'm getting paid my yearly salary. That includes Shabbos work. Person getting paid their monthly yearly salary. That includes what they need to do. Of course, not doing anything that Shabbos prohibited, but that includes some Shabbos responsibilities. The Baal Koreh, the Torah reader, well, he's reading on Shabbos, he's not reading during the week. Yes, but he has to prepare during the week. So therefore, he's being paid for the entire job, which is the preparation, and therefore it's spread out over weekdays. The caterers, they've got to prepare before Shabbos. They got to deliver it before Shabbos. They got to clean up after Shabbos. So that is, havla'ah literally means swallowed. It gets swallowed in as part of a broader based responsibility, and it's not particular for Shabbat. Okay, giving presents on Shabbos. Interesting. You go to someone's house, you might want to bring a bottle of wine or something like that. How does that work? One may not acquire a gift for himself or take possession of a gift for another by an act of acquisition. This applies even when no monetary exchange is involved. Okay? No gifts may be given on Shabbos, as this resembles a business transaction. However, for the purpose of a mitzvah, for Shabbos needs, it is permitted. Okay, so if you're giving a bottle of wine, that goes into the category of mitzvah Shabbos needs, right? If you're giving them a nice bowl, right, which needs to be toveled, right, immersed in a mikvah before it's going to be used, so that's a bit of an issue. So what one can do is have someone else, right? You can say, Danielle, do me a favor, acquire this for the new statters. And that way, when you give it to the new statters on Shabbos, they're not acquiring on Shabbos, it's already theirs. Right? How can you acquire for them? Right? Well, they don't know, they haven't made you an agent. Well, since it's for their benefit, you can act as an agent. You can act as a self-appointed agent for someone else when it is for their benefit. Okay? Right? If someone is coming to my house, let's say they're not knowledgeable, and they bring me a bowl, right? I can thank them very much. I say, take it back. No, I'm kidding. Right? I can thank them very much and have in mind, I don't plan to acquire this until after Shabbos. I'm not going to, normally you take it into your possession, you're acquiring it, but I don't acquire it after, against my wishes. So I thank them very much. I put it down on the counter. I have in mind not to acquire it. After Shabbos, I acquire it, and all is good. And they don't know, they're not insulted, all is good. Yes, Danielle.
Like kids' clothes. I have somebody who's always giving me clothes on Shabbos. Is that allowed?
Bring their clothes on Shabbos, or they bring it to shul, or they bring it to shul. So probably the best thing to do would be to put it into my office. And assuming it doesn't fit me, I'll give it to you after Shabbos. You don't have to worry. Right? Also, you see me walking around in very tight clothing. You've ever seen her, right? I just, just oh, thank you so much. Right? Take it, put it into my office, and after Shabbos, right, the next day we could take care of it. Right? If that's going to be an inconvenience, have in mind not to acquire it. And then, if it's easier to bring it home, you might want to meet it that afternoon. Right? So those are two halachic options that would work. Okay, Esther. That's a good point. And we acquire it for them already before Shabbos. Yeah, we lift it up with them in mind, and it's theirs. And I often forget. So Jackie, good point, Esther. Let's remind one another when it comes to the bar mitzvah bags to make sure that we acquire it on their behalf in advance. Yes. Yes. I'm not sure how much Torah study is going to take place that afternoon. So probably better if we just have in mind to make a kinyan and acquisition before. Good. Okay. 289, visiting one's property and possessions. Don't go for a walk on Shabbos to one's fields, shop, or property if it is obvious that one's intention is to examine what work must be done or what items must be bought after Shabbos. Right? That's engaging in your business. Walk into a place on Shabbos where one intends to do work on Motzei Shabbos, right, on Saturday night. One may not walk to a place on Shabbos if as soon as Shabbos is over, he intends to do an activity there, which may not be done on Shabbos. Because basically, what are you doing on Shabbos? You're getting ready for already after Shabbos. You can't walk to a bus stop on Shabbos, so you can travel as soon as Shabbos is over. I'm not sure how he's paying for the bus, but that's another issue, right? Similarly, one may not walk to his office on Shabbos so that he can begin to work right after Shabbos. Okay. Looking over business accounts, advertisements. Pursuing one's business also includes looking over accounts, reading professional journals, and commercial advertisements. While pursuing one's business is prohibited, tending to religious affairs is permitted. Therefore, when one is called to the Torah on Shabbos, one may commit himself to make a contribution, right? A person makes a second Misha Berach, right? Not just for himself, but also for the family, whoever it might be. So it's customary to give tzedakah to the shul on behalf of that. That is okay. If you're having an appeal on Shabbos, we have an appeal on Yom Kippur, right? That is tending to religious affairs. That is allowed. One may also discuss sums of money put aside for a mitzvah purpose. All of that is for religious affairs, and that is permitted. Okay, here we go, 292, you would ask about Ladero. Speaking about activities prohibited on Shabbos relating sad things. It is prohibited to talk about activities which are forbidden on Shabbos. For example, one may not discuss his traveling plans or what he intends to write or buy. Okay, this is a little bit more, nuanced, right? Let's say I see somebody at Shalashudis who I know lives far away. I know the person will be wondering, oh gosh, man, I have to walk home after Shabbos. The person didn't drive here before Shabbos and leave his car here, as many of us do, right? So I would not be able to go tell him, I'll drive you after Shabbos. I don't want to say the words, I'll drive you after Shabbos, since driving is not allowed on Shabbos. I can say, I can take you home after Shabbos. That'll put his mind at ease. Why is that any different? Right. Even though it's clear to him, I don't mean I'm going to sling him over my back and give him a fireman's carry and bring him home, right? Even though it's clear I'm going to take him home means I'm going to drive him home. But here the issue is on daber davar. What words are being said? And the words take him home, get you home, help you get home, right? I'm not saying that my daber davar, the words that I'm speaking, are not anything which is not of Shabbos import. And therefore that would be allowed. Although talking about one's business is prohibited, thinking about it is permitted. Okay. Another way in which we make Shabbos pleasurable is by refraining from relating anything which will cause sorrow to the listener. Okay, so we're not going to, and you have situations where a person heard about the death of a relative and didn't share it. Right? They were able to put up a brave face and didn't share it with others so as not to, there's nothing we can do about it on Shabbos. Nothing we can do about it on Shabbos. Right? So therefore, put on a brave face and not bring others into that sadness.
Comes to work conversations, should we refrain about talking about job related stuff, right?
For example.
Yeah, like if I'm maybe walking home with someone and or I ask somebody and say, hey, how was your week? And then they say, work was good, and and then we slowly start talking about how's the job coming. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Starting a great project. Work was a little bit stressful. I got a job promotion. Things like that. Should that be avoided?
You don't want to get into the nitty-gritty. You don't want to get into the nitty-gritty. Let's take hip hop dance classes for offbeat when I dance, it's offbeat. An offbeat example, right? So, how the class is going. Oh, going great. I'm having a good time. It's going well. You don't want to get into the nitty gritty. Well, we charge this amount for offering this deal. To say, my app is up and running. I'm excited about it. But not going to, it's, $29.99 for this, or, just, yeah, yeah, yeah. There's always the balance that we try to have. We want there to be nice, relaxed, comfortable conversation, right? As part of our Shabbos owner. We also don't want, right? So you also don't want to be, oh, I can't talk about that. Oh, I can't talk about that. At the same time, we don't want it to get into the nitty gritty of the business. And there's a lot of that balance. Okay, so then look, if that person needs a warm, welcoming ear that you provide, Danielle, and that's going to make them feel better to unload it. That's also a chesed, is also a Shabbos need. That's what I mean. There's a lot of, yeah, it's interesting. The Shulchan Aruch is the code of Jewish law, right? And there are 4 sections of Shulchan Aruch. There's the one that we just mentioned. There's one that deals with the day-to-day, Orach Chayim, and the one that deals with marriage laws. That's Even HaEzer. The one that deals with business laws, Choshen Mishpat. The one that deals with a broad array, with family purity and kashrut and many other, along mezuzah, many other things along that's Yoredeya, right? So the way that it's often phrased is there's also the 5th portion of Shulchan Aruch, which is Shikol Hadas, weighing things, right? Not therefore I will drive on Shabbos because this friend is having, you know what I'm saying? But within these areas, okay, yeah. Shikol Hadas is an important thing. Okay, 293, as if all his work is completed. Although thinking about one's business permitted on Shabbos, one who strives to enjoy Shabbos should try to feel as if all his work is completed when Shabbos arrives. On the verse, 6 days you shall work and do all vasita kol melachtecha, you'll do all your work. The Mechilta, one of the asks, can a person complete all his labor? Are we ever all finished? Everything's done? Nothing left to do comes Monday morning? All my work is done? Rather, the verse is implying that when one rests on Shabbos, one should feel as if all the work is completed. Right? That's not what is weighing on our minds. Shabbos should be dedicated to Torah study, and idle talk should be cut down to a minimum, especially those people who are so busy earning their livelihood. They have little time for anything else during the week. Shabbos presents them a special privilege, the opportunity to dedicate the day to Torah study and spiritual growth. Okay. Exerting, 294, exerting oneself on Shabbos. So just everybody knows that some people joined a little bit late. So we're getting earlier each week. Next week already, we're going to go to 7:30. I know it's been a little bit confusing, and I apologize. And there are those who can't make it earlier than 7:30. So we're going to just be set at 7:30 for a long time. Okay? Yeah, set at 7:30 for a long time. Because Mincha will continue to get earlier and earlier. Eventually, when we change the clock, we go to Mincha at 12:35, Marav at 6:30. So 7:30 should be starting next week for the foreseeable future. That should be our set start time. Okay. Exerting What's up on Shabbos? Because of the prohibition of uvdin dechol, again, that's the term we used before, weekday affairs, one should not perform strenuous work on Shabbos, even if it's kind of is permitted, right? Carrying a heavy load or moving furniture around in the house, right? I'm not being machalel Shabbos. I'm not desecrating Shabbos by doing that. I'm just moving something. But if I'm exerting myself, then I should not be doing that on Shabbos. If you normally do, David, you do push-ups every morning still, right? If you normally do push-ups, right, in the morning, so Shabbos. Oh, this David I know more. Do you also do push-ups in the morning? I usually try to do push-ups. I try to do some push-ups in the morning. On Shabbos, I don't. Right? In terms of exerting yourselves, that we don't do on Shabbos. It's a day more for that relaxation. Fruits that fell and scattered in the yard, right, may not be gathered into a basket container, right, one at a time and eaten without being placed in a basket. Okay, sound like a stomach ache in the making. If the fruits all fell in one place, they may be picked up and placed in a basket. If they rolled in the dirt, right, may be picked up. Okay, not so much relevant to us. Okay, 295. Amira la'akum, telling a non-Jew to do work on Shabbos. It is prohibited to tell a non-Jew on Shabbos to do any work for a Jew, whether the work is to be done on Shabbos or afterwards. It's also prohibited to tell a non-Jew before Shabbos to do any work for a Jew on Shabbos. Okay, this, yes.
I want to make sure, so I don't do this, but Jose does open the door for me to the people so I can nurse. Is that okay to ask when
Okay.
I'm ready?
The laws when a non-Jew can be asked, right, to do something for on Shabbos that a Jew may not do are complex. There are ways in which one is permitted to ask a non-Jew. One is advised to consult with halachic authority on these details. Okay, so there is a common misconception, right? Right, you may have heard the term the Shabbos guy. Okay, and that is a non-Jew who can come and help us to do things on Shabbos, right? If it's completely dark, an unusable room, to have a non-Jew come and turn on the light for us will be problematic. That I'm getting benefit from that which he has done. Okay? Do we hear how that's different than the Jose and the door to the preschool case? Why? Correct, but why? Let's understand it. Okay. In other words, when he turns on the light, his act of Shabbos desecration is what I am getting benefit from. Okay? You're not getting benefit from the beep of the door or the electronic click as he uses his fob and opens the door. Right? Do we hear that? Right? It's not that you're getting benefit from the click, from the act itself. Now the door, if it's using a key, then there's no problem at all. What would they should be? Oh, okay. I thought we were talking about some electronic process of opening the door. Yes. Oh, for sure. If there's no electronic process in it, then there's no problem whatsoever. Okay? Right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The general rule The general rule is this. Whatever you are allowed to do, he is allowed or she is allowed to do it for you, even in a way that you are not allowed to do it. Let me explain, right? Are you allowed to wash dishes on Shabbos? Yes. Yes. You can't use a sponge, you can't use hot water, you can't use hard soap, but you can use it cold water, Shabbos sponge, liquid soap. So are you allowed to wash dishes on Shabbos? Yes. Can he wash dishes for you on Shabbos, he or she? Yes. Even if he uses a sponge, or he uses hot water, or he uses a hard as opposed to a liquid soap, he's doing that in order to make his job easier. But the act that's being done is a permitted act. Can he do laundry for you on Shabbos? No, because you are not allowed to do laundry on Shabbos. It's not, well, if I do laundry, no. Laundering cannot be done on Shabbos. Now, you might ask and say, well, according to that, why can't he just put the food in the dishwasher and hit the button? Right? That makes it even easier for the non-Jew. And technically, perhaps, but we don't allow that because what we said before of that Shabbos atmosphere. Turning on the dishwasher is not going to be the Shabbos atmosphere. Okay? So it's only if you're getting direct hana'ah, benefit, from that which the person has done. Okay? Let's say turning on the blechs for us on Shabbos. Okay? So the food's already cooked. Right? So, right? Am I getting, right? So I'll have hot food. I can warm up food. Right? So, right? Better to have it going on before Shabbos as we do. But in a pinch, that would be okay. Now, cooking on Shabbos, that of course is no good, right? And there's another important case, which is, let's say, right? Two other points I want to make, and then Gabriella. There's something called removing a nuisance, right? Let's say my car alarm is gone off. I need someone to hit the button on my car, please, so it doesn't keep going, right? So there, again, I'm benefiting from the lack of a sound, but I'm not getting benefit from the sound, from the lack of sound. He has removed this nuisance, okay? Now, even when one is allowed to ask a non-Jew to do certain things for us, we'll discuss soon, right? But one should not, there are two factors here. One is you don't want to make him your agent. Number two, you don't want to get benefit from the actual malacha that he's doing, okay? So we discussed getting benefit from the actual malacha. You also don't want to make him your agent. So therefore, you wouldn't say, could you please turn off my car alarm? Or could you please, we left this light on and the kids can't sleep. Can you please turn off the light? What you can say is, gee, the kids are having problems sleeping with the light on. Okay. So again, in terms of getting benefit, he's removing the nuisance. I haven't made him an agent. I haven't said, can you please do X, right? The person has used their discretion that the kids can't fall asleep with the light on. maybe I can help in that respect. And he helps in that respect. Okay. Now, there are two situations which get expanded upon a little bit. When you can even tell a non-Jew directly to do it. One is for a chola. There's a sick person. Obviously not life in danger. If life in danger, you do it, right? But a sick person. And if you have children, children are considered to be like chola. Their needs are great. Their dependency is great. Children are considered to be like chola. When we lived in Israel, so we had a ground fault indicator interrupt, right? If there's a certain surge, it turns off the electricity. That way, if kids stick something in the outlet before anything bad happens, it shuts off the house. The only problem was that whenever there'd be lightning outside, the lights would go off. The whole electricity would go off. The lights, that included our heating in the winter, okay? So there, we were allowed to go to a non-Jew who's working in the nearby yeshivas and say, our lights went out. And they would know, they would come. There, they're turning on the lights. It's pitch black without it. There, it's allowed because we had young children. And it's dangerous. You're in a pitch black house, kid wakes up, right? No, it's dangerous. So there, Amira La'akum, which the whole thing is a rabbinic institution. In those situations, they did not institute it. So it's either people who are sick or children, right? So then we're allowed to. The third one, which we extend a little bit, is cold. The halacha says, the Shulchan Aruch says, we're all considered to be sick when it comes to the cold. So if the heat went off in the winter, and you live in the frozen tundra of Irvine, California, or you live in a place where the cold is an issue, so there, even without children and no one being sick, we're all considered to be sick when it comes to the cold. So there we could have the non-Jew come and turn that on for us. We extend that somewhat. We've become a lot more sensitive, spoiled, best word is. And we extend that to air conditioning also, right? So we extend the heat to, we'll call it climate control, right? And, right, if the AC goes out over here or wasn't set properly, we will have, right, we won't say, Jose, can you please fix, set the thermostat, that's making him an agent. We will say, kind of hot in the synagogue, and I guess the clock wasn't set properly. Jose is a highly intelligent person, and he'll come, right? Even though we're getting direct benefit, like the lights going on, we're getting direct benefit, but we are we become somewhat spoiled, sensitized, and that goes into the expanded category of we're not all just sick when it comes to heat, to being too cold. We're sick when it comes to being too hot, and we're a little bit sensitized. Yes, Gabriella. Okay, so yes, 100%. And there's another factor here. The other factor here is, you see, when Jose turns on the air conditioning for us in here, he's not doing it for his own benefit, because he doesn't hang out in here all that much. That's not an issue, right? But your sister, is it? Your sister who's living with you, she's turning on the AC for herself. She's hot, right? We said before, he turns the light, it's a problem. If he walks into the house and sits down to read a book and it's getting dark and hits the light, he's doing it for himself. That's fine. right? And just hope he doesn't turn it off when he walks out, right? Yeah. Yeah, the Gemara has an expression, ner le'echad, ner le'meya. The same candle that works for one person works for 100 people, right? So the light will be afforded to everyone. Yes, Esther. Yeah.
So would you stand?
Serious problem. Serious problem. Yeah. Yeah. Halakhically, right, you can't have a Jew, no matter how observant or non-observant that Jew might be, you don't want that Jew to be doing anything prohibited because of you. It comes up over here in the shul with our electric gates. So I insist that all the gates go on manual, right, throughout Shabbos, right, which is an added expense. We need to have a guard here, right? It gets locked at a certain time. It's a bit of a problem. Why do I insist? Because I don't want the person on the way out of shul activating the gate. What do you mean, Rabbi? The guy's driving. The guy's driving. Look, the person decides to drive. That's their choice. But I don't want that the shul is requiring him to do an added aspect of taking his card, swiping it, whatever it is, or even he doesn't swipe, right? On the way out, you don't need to swipe. You just automatically, the sensor activates. But the shul should not be creating a situation that more malacha is being done, right? Because of the shul. What a person chooses to do, the person chooses to do. But we don't want to create that, right? And yet you have issues then, if it's your sister who turns on the AC, that's not a problem. If it were a Jew who turned on the AC, that's a problem, right? Just to give you a sense of some of the issues that go on in the world, there are those who are strict in Israel not to use electricity on Shabbos at all, but they have their own generator. Why? Because it's Jews who are working the grid at the electric company in Israel. And electric company, they're constantly adjusting the grid, right? Which generator goes on, which one goes off, because you want to manage it as close to the level as you need. You don't want to be overproducing. You want to, right? So it takes constant adjustments. So therefore if I'm using electricity, they claim I'm benefiting from a Jew's Shabbat desecration. The reason that many people do use it and are not concerned about this, well, I shouldn't even say it, but many people aren't even aware of the problem. But they know that religious people do use electricity. There are those that don't. The Bnei Brak, those who follow the opinion of the Chazon Ish, who was the Rav going back in the 1950s, 60s in Bnei Brak, right? So they don't, but others who do, right? For those who do, well, we just said before, ner le'echad, ner le'meya. A candle for one is the same candle for 100. And there are hospitals which need that. Otherwise, life is in danger, right? So therefore, it needs to be done for the hospitals, okay? In which case, once it's being done to save lives, I can also do it. There's always another counterpoint though, isn't there, right? Well, most of the hospitals, if not all the hospitals, have their own generators at this point. That if there is an electric shortage, electric outage, I should say, then all of a sudden, all the people who are on life-saving machinery are not going to die. So, it goes up and down. But we get a sense of the importance of not getting benefit from a Jew's desecration of the Shabbat. Yes, Gabriel. Okay. Okay. So the broadly accepted halacha is that one can invite, and even it's good to invite, because unless they come and experience a nice Shabbos, then how will they ever even consider taking the next step? Okay? Broadly accepted is you should offer them to sleep over if they'd like. Even if you know for sure there's not a snowball's chance in hell that they're sleeping over, right? But you offer them to sleep over. And that way, in a way, it's sort of like I mentioned with the electric gates of the cars here, that you're not, right? But nowadays, even without offering to sleep over, we invite people and hope we have a good, positive influence on them. And, especially in situations where it's not like if you didn't invite them, they'll be home lighting their Shabbos candles and right. So if they're going to drive anywhere on a Friday night, let it be to a Shabbos meal as opposed to the movies or a concert, right? So that's the general approach that is taken. Yes, Liddell.
Question about the generators being in hospitals. So with that being said, is a Jew wrong for using electricity on Shabbos then? Since
it's only in Israel, first of all.
Right.
And the general accepted, if you're not a chazon ishnik, as they say, the general accepted practice is people use electricity in Shabbos. I lived in a very religious neighborhood, and there we had generators that we would use on Shabbos. Different families chipped in and had generators, but the generators weren't strong enough to run the air conditioning. So the air conditioning would run on the electric grid, and the rest would run on, right? So you see that already. It's, what you can do, you do, but it's not. It's not viewed again. Besides in Bnei Brak, they don't use the water either. Cold or hot, right? Even though water is a lot less of an issue, because typically water, the reason they have these high water towers, that way gravity is what gives us, yeah. I haven't seen any water towers around. So we're probably getting our water from pumps, right? So coming from pumps, so what they'll do is they'll fill up a bucket or fill up the bathtub, right? And have a little bucket there. And after using the restroom, one would do basically a manual flush. Right? It's basically, when you flush the toilet, what's happening? Water's going in there and flushing the rest out, right? So you could also take a manual flush, right? It's good to know after the water goes out. If you know the water's going to be turned off for a period of time, fill up the bathtub, and that we have a good manual flush. See all the things you learn in this class? Amazing. I don't know. Okay, the next thing, chapter 11, is muktzah. Okay, this is a large topic which we're going to do next week. Just very briefly, I think next week I hope to, we'll see if we have to finish up. Not next week, then somewhere the week after. Our Shabbos stuff. But muktzah, the idea is muktzah means set aside. And things that do not have Shabbos usage are set aside, and we're not meant to move them on Shabbos. Okay, this is a way to both keep us at bay from doing something that is prohibited, right? I mean, if I can't pick up the hammer, I'm not going to drive that nail into the wall, right? And also what we learned about today, which is creating that proper Shabbat environment that we want. Okay, different categories of muksa. Muksa is pretty complicated, but we'll do our best next week to break it down. Okay, so once again, next week we have a 7:30 start, and that will be where we will be consistently. I'll stop driving you guys crazy with changing it every week and having to do the advanced mathematics of Shabbat mincha time plus 40, right? Just 7:30 is where we will end. Okay? Good seeing everybody. Say goodbye
Thank you, Rabbi.
to Elizabeth.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay, good night, good night.
Good night.
Okay. Okay, so that's manual.